Today, I'm going to be trying to complete every single Poppy Playtime chapter without sprinting. And you know what? To make it harder, I won't allow myself to jump either. Poppy Playtime is a game all about fast, high-paced chase sequences and tons of platforming. So it might seem impossible to even get past chapter 1, but with a ridiculous amount of time and trial and error, this is what happened. There we go! Oh, what? Oh, we did it! We did it! We did it! What? This shouldn't be possible. So starting off with chapter 1, thankfully things begin pretty easy. I spawned into the factory and immediately went to the gift shop to get the code on the train and entered the security room to collect my grab pack. Give me that. Then I went to the main lobby where Huggy resides, not knowing how much of a problem he was about to become in this challenge later on, and completed the electrical puzzle leading to him escaping. And there. Not much sprinting needed yet. I then made my way to the storage room to collect the fuses to get the second grab pack hand, but here is where we run into our first mini obstacle. See, the conveyor belt I needed to walk on to get into the next area is blocked off by this hand container and various other boxes on the path that we can't jump over. But thankfully, this wasn't a huge problem. I just had to remove all of the items out of the way and place a bin here so I could walk around the container and into the next area, the Make a Friend room. From here, I took the stairs to the top of the catwalk and once again completed the simple power puzzle to activate the Make a Friend machine and start building my Catbee toy. I then waited for it to create while everybody watching clicked the like button, and after getting the toy, I was met with the first major obstacle in this challenge, the Huggy Wuggy chase. After putting in the toy to open this door and walking into the hallway, Huggy ambushed me like he always does, but instead of sprinting away, I merely waddled over into the vent. And now I think I need to quickly explain exactly how the Huggy Wuggy chase works. See, when playing the game normally, it seems like there's one Huggy chasing you at all times throughout the vent. However, in all actuality, after entering the vent, the original Huggy completely despawns, and the rest of the chase is divided into 3 main checkpoints that spawn separate Huggies every time to attack us. So to map the chase out, we start by entering the vent and immediately meeting Huggy across from us, which is purely cosmetic, before moving across a bit to the first checkpoint at this intersection where the first Huggy cuts us off and forces us to go right. He then chases us around for a little bit until reaching this ramp for checkpoint 2 that after falling down spawns a second Huggy from above. This one also chases us down for a few turns and a long hallway, leading into the third and final checkpoint where we get trapped in between these 2 vents as he chases us from the side, opening up at the last second and letting us climb up one final steep incline, successfully completing the chase. So at the start, I was free to take my time in the vents until I reached the first checkpoint. And we're pretty safe right here. He doesn't come down here. Now, the good news is that Huggy Wuggy's AI in the more recent versions of Chapter 1 was reprogrammed to adjust to the player's speed and skill. Meaning, if we were sprinting at full speed, Huggy would be going lightning fast, while if we go slower, he will slow down to keep things close no matter what. So I could simply walk past the first checkpoint and he would follow right behind me, completing it easily. But things quickly get much more difficult at the next checkpoint, as after dropping down this ramp, Huggy picks up the speed a little bit and therefore is fast enough to catch me at just a walking pace, long before I make it to the next section. Oh no. That is going to be impossible. This is where things almost immediately seem to reach a dead end. Pretty much no matter what I did or how efficient I was, Huggy Wuggy would always catch me at this point in the chase. I tried different frame rates, POVs, every other setting, tried it on other consoles, tried bringing in boxes to stop Huggy, none of it worked. And plus, even if I did magically figure out how to get past this section fast enough, the final checkpoint of the chase required me to climb up a steep incline, essentially forcing me to sprint. So I was pretty much stuck, not even close to the end. However, there was one last thing I could try, which is going back to the original version of Chapter 1 released 4 years ago before it got any updates. Maybe something this time would be different that would help me out a bit. Well, after hours of trying and failing, it was worth the attempt. So I replayed the entire chapter again, and after starting the Huggy chase, if anything, it seemed like I was moving even slower. And this time, I couldn't even get past the first checkpoint before he got me. Oh no. He is so much faster. This is because in the older versions of Chapter 1, Huggy didn't adjust to the player's speed, but rather always went at a set pace, which actually makes the game significantly easier if you're sprinting, but for us, he ends up going a whole lot faster. However, the good news is that while the older version is technically harder to beat normally, the most important part is that with this being the first version, it's also much glitchier, especially when it comes to Huggy Wuggy. And when searching around the internet for potential glitches to help me, I found this video where the player in the last checkpoint was able to hug this wall here, and for whatever reason, Huggy just ran right past them and up the hill, despawning, allowing them to walk around as they pleased. Meaning that apparently around the vent chase in the original versions, there were various blind spots that Huggy wouldn't be able to spot us in, and I could then take my time after he ran past, removing him as a threat entirely. With the only issue being that, like I said, Huggy respawns at all 3 of the checkpoints, meaning I would have to find a blind spot for every single one. So I went around all of the different nooks and crannies of the vent chase, trying to find places I could hide from Huggy, and believe it or not, I was actually able to find quite a few. Checkpoint 1 had a blind spot here, checkpoint 2 had one here, and of course checkpoint 3 had the one seen in the video. So all I had to do was do them all in one try. Okay, let's do this. All right, go, 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 go. Okay, this Huggy can't get us. Get right here. All right, we did checkpoint number 1. Here's the next one. Go right here. All right, we did it. Checkpoint 2 is good. Okay, this is the final checkpoint. Okay, just go right here, crouch. And okay, we're good. We should be good. We just gotta go. No sprinting, no anything. Oh my gosh, we're so slow. Just go, just go, just go, please. We're almost there. Yes. Please. There we go. There we go. I did it. All I had to do was walk up the catwalk, open up the flower door, and head to Poppy's room to free her, marking the completion of Chapter 1. Now, this is great, but there are still 3 other chapters that just get longer and more difficult, so it's time to move on to the next one. So Chapter 2 begins where Chapter 1 ended, in Poppy's room, but with Poppy missing. First, I exited on the right door and went towards the janitor's office to get Elliot's office key. After grabbing the key, I entered the office and needed to access this vent that was only within jumping distance. So to avoid having to jump, I had to use the vent cover as a ramp and grabbed one of Elliot's pillows to lift me up the rest of the way. After running back into Poppy, talking to her for a little bit, and then exiting Ludwig's office, I could vault over into this room where this chapter's main antagonist, Mommy Longlegs, stole Poppy from right in front of me. After following her down, completing a simple puzzle to power on a gate, and getting my red grab pack hand stolen in my first encounter with Mommy, who tasked me with playing 3 of her mini games in exchange for a train code to escape, I entered the game station and headed to the first mini game, Musical Memory. After acquiring the green hand in this room when completing another set of simple puzzles, I then met up with Bunzo Bunny and played Musical Memory, which doesn't really require any running or jumping, it's just a game of Simon Says. Then I completed another small puzzle in the Rejected Toys room and one more to escape the area, leading me into the next minigame, Whack a Wuggy. Once again, Whack-A-Wuggy is a simple whack-a-mole simulator. It didn't involve much running or jumping, and after admittedly dying a few times, I completed it with mostly ease, along with this next section where I had to pull this berry cart out and drop him down this ramp. Now, honestly, so far, Chapter 2 was turning out to be a walk in the park, and I thought if anything, it might have been too easy. But then I was brought to the third and final section, statues. After completing a puzzle to power the door to the area, I was met with the final game, where PJ Pugapillar plays red light, green light with me, allowing me to move while it's dark and having to freeze when the lights are turned on, all while he ferociously snuck behind me. Now, thankfully, after walking through the first couple sections with only a few mishaps... Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. It was clear that PJ, like Huggy from before, slowed down to match the player's pace, meaning I could generally maneuver through the stage while walking and he would get close but usually never caught me. At least it was that way all the way up until I reached the final section here, where I faced a major problem. Where is he? Oh no. I'm stuck, and I can't move. Hey PJ, I don't really know what to do. So normally in this section, the player would jump across these blocks to reach the grab pack bar here and escape. However, not being able to jump, I was forced to walk through the block pit, which wasn't just slower, but also was filled with holes that kept getting me stuck. So to get past this, I had to very carefully walk across each block, making sure to not accidentally fall into a pit and make it across that way. Okay, this path so far seems pretty safe. Come on. No pits, no pits. Oh my gosh, it's just like right there. Okay. Go, let me up. Let's go. Let's go. That was rough. After finally completing statues, I made it to the water treatment area, which seemed pretty unremarkable at first. I just changed the path to reach the left room and completed a simple puzzle to grab the Bunzo plush. But on my way back, I realized the only way to return was to jump up onto this platform here. And so after trying a couple things, like dragging this Cat B cardboard cutout out there to potentially use as a ramp, I saw these little empty boxes that I could use as steps to get on top of the platform as long as I didn't drop them. No. No. Yes. No. Come on. There we go. Then I could complete the rest of the water treatment and the following simple power puzzle after it, which led up to perhaps the scariest part, the Mommy Longlegs chase. We saw how much of a pain Huggy was, so let's see what happens. First, I encountered Mommy by grabbing up here, and she started counting down from 10. Thankfully, quickly walking down the stairs was fast enough for her to not find me once she reached 0. The first obstacle I had in this section was here, where in order to reach the next area, I needed to get through this hole that required me to jump. To get around this, I took some barrels from the bottom of the staircase and stacked them so I could get on top of the rail. And using the rail, I could crouch walk all the way to the hole and enter it that way. Afterward, there was a second hole which I could enter by simply walking across the pipes back and forth. And finally, there was a conveyor belt here that I needed to ride, and to get on top of it, I just had to remove the boxes on the right to climb up that way. Next, I completed the color wire puzzle as normal and progressed on before having my first real encounter with Mommy. All right, go. Come on. Go. No. Now, if you didn't know, you're supposed to grapple back up here to avoid Mommy, and it was definitely possible even if close, but thankfully the devs threw me a bone because after I died here, I spawned with the section already completed. Oh, okay. Well, that makes that easier. Next, after opening this room, Mommy Longlegs jumped me once again and forced me into this chamber that thankfully I could reach before she got to me, and after moving further, I made it to this elevator that after pulling spawns Mommy Longlegs and begins the final part of the chase. But I was able to give myself a little bit of a head start by grabbing the lever, walking as far away as I could, and then pulling it there. So from here, all I had to do was escape. Please. Get down. Go, 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 go. No, 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 no. I forgot how scary this chase is, especially when you can't run. Quick! Quicker! Okay, we're good. We're good. We're good. Once again, I survived. I got my satisfying reward by going into this hallway and opening the door before Mommy Longlegs runs herself into a grinder and I finish her off. Next, after doing one more maneuver to get past this ledge here, I just had to save Poppy, who had the last part of the train code, and then could make my way down to the train, activate it, and leave. At least until Poppy changes the track directions on me and I have to pull the brake, causing it to crash, but also marking the completion of Poppy Playtime Chapter 2. So now I have 2 of the 4 chapters done, and it was time to move on to an even bigger test, Chapter 3. So going into Chapter 3, I was feeling pretty good and especially confident. I'm having the Poppy Playtime G Fuel right now, which you can get using code SHEEP down in the description. All right, Chapter 3, let's do it. However, the second the chapter started, I was immediately met with some major issues. First off, after Catnap drops me into the garbage area after the train crash for the opening scene, everything immediately starts closing in and I have to quickly escape. However, the ramp to get up is placed in a weird way that makes it really hard to reach without jumping. Thankfully though, this wasn't a big deal, as if I waited for the area to compress some more, the trash inside would help lift me up. Maybe once this squeezes closer, I can get up here. Come on. There we go. There we go. Okay, that works. What was a big deal is that right after this room, I completely forgot that Chapter 3 starts with multiple parkour sequences involving these pistons. And not being able to jump or even sprint, this was a huge problem. The first sequence here involves multiple pistons going up and down that the player normally needs to climb to the end of the room to reach this area right here, which at first, to be honest, I thought was going to be completely impossible. I mean, how could I climb up the pistons if I couldn't jump or even sprint? However, by some crazy stroke of luck, I realized that I could skip most of the parkour sequence entirely by starting at the entrance of the room here and fall all the way onto this blue piston. After doing that, I could go backwards onto this piston that would eventually lift up and I could use to get on this railing that I could then follow and successfully reach the exit. Let's go! Let's go. Oh, I was so scared that was going to be it, which was certainly great, but looking back, this part was a piece of cake compared to the next section that comes directly after this, where in this room, various sets of pistons go up and down into the red smoke that kills the player when touched, normally requiring the player to quickly parkour over the pistons before they dropped down. Now, the first part of this section is thankfully pretty easy. I just needed to walk up this rail, wait for the pistons to rise, and as they're rising, walk onto them. Plus, as a bonus, their close proximity let me move across each one without having to jump. But then, to cross the last 4 pistons, things are much more difficult, as they are further apart this time around, meaning I couldn't just walk between them and would have to reach each one separately. But then, without jumping or sprinting, how could I do this? Well, to get past the first piston, the solution is to completely completely skip it and go on to the second piston by again waiting for it to fall and catching it while it's rising, with the only problem being that the timing is pretty specific and is hard to do consistently. But then once I reach here to get to the third piston, things are a bit more complex. See, after hugging the wall a bit to maybe find somewhere I could use to help me progress, I found that the bottom of this pipe near the floor could actually be stood on, giving me a safe place right next to the piston. Then in theory, I could walk onto it while it's on its way back up and then move through the rest of the parkour simple enough. Except being so close to the red smoke at the bottom, if I wasn't as much as perfect with the timing, I would touch it and die, restarting this entire section. So I literally had no room for error here, and this is after completing every other part in succession. I tried doing this for so long, death after death after death. But then after a half hour or so of just trying to get this one jump, something finally clicked. Nice. Down into the pipes. Let's go. Get over here. Come on, please, please. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I was ecstatic, and all I needed to do was grab this platform by the vent and swing over out of the parkour. Can I get over here? No. Oh no. Except, of course, there was a gap between the two platforms. Oh, what? It takes me back? Yep, messing it up means I have to do this entire section all over again. So I spent another few minutes getting back over to the area, and there actually were some items I found to help me get on the platform, but they weren't enough and didn't really work, so I ended up dying a couple more times. And after restarting the entire game again to see what I could find, I came across some barrels that I could take over to potentially help me out. Come here, barrel. Okay, you stay right there. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I need this barrel. Okay. I was finally able to get on the cart and swing to the vent. Now, I did need another platform to reach the vent itself, but thankfully the barrel came in clutch and I was somehow able to find it among the smoke at the bottom to use as one final platform, and then finally escape this area. Anyway, after this, the game actually started to play like normal. I made it to the cell phone with Ollie and went to the train station where I could power on the tram that I could ride into Playcare. Following this, again, things were pretty normal even if slower. I went to the gas production zone where this red smoke was being produced and acquired the Grab Pack 2.0 that allowed me to at least kind of jump with the purple hand. I then had to pass this parkour section, which normally you need to sprint and then jump to pass, but for whatever reason, I found that if you hit the purple hand pads at just the right angle, it launches you in the direction you're facing, which allowed me to pass through this area with ease. Then the gas production zone shut down, and to repower it, I have to return to the Playcare and power up the backup generators in each room, first starting with Home Sweet Home. This section started with the iconic dream sequence walking through the long empty halls until Huggy came to get me, which didn't really involve any jumping or sprinting of that kind. But after completing the dream, I realized that there were a few different areas that required me to jump through holes, which thankfully could mostly be overcame by placing a couple objects and using the abandoned broken architecture to climb around as I pleased. After collecting the 4 batteries in Home Sweet Home, which were all relatively easy, I powered on its generator and that was it. When exiting, Poppy and Kissy make their return for a heartwarming cutscene telling us they needed our help, and then I made my way into the second section, the school with Miss Delight. Again, the puzzles were nothing too special. Just grab a couple batteries around the map and use them to power various doors and explore the vents, all the way up until we reach the generator. But now it was time to escape the school in the Miss Delight chase, where I'd have to go around grabbing batteries and green hand charges to power on various exits as she chases me like a weeping angel, which was going to be a large task without being able to run. Alright, time for the Miss Delight chase. This kinda scares me. Let's go. First, let's grab the battery. I'm interested to see how fast she'll be. Oh my gosh! Okay, I'm definitely gonna have to keep my eye on you. Let's get this charge. We gotta go, though. Through here, and then give me that. This part might be a bit tricky. Oh gosh. Okay. We have our first battery. Let's grab the second one. There. There. I just need the charge. Give me the charge. Okay, quick. Just go. Hopefully I can do this part. Oh gosh. Okay, she's pretty slow. Just pull the lever. And we did it. That part I was worried about. It didn't end up being too terrible. So after passing the school and going into the caves, again, things were all normal. I completed the cave puzzles, I got to see Catnap praying to the prototype, and then I reached the third area, the playhouse. Into the playhouse. Now, the playhouse actually ended up being pretty easy. I just had to walk through the location and drop some blocks on these buttons in the play area as I normally would, while also avoiding the mini critters. However, not being able to sprint does lead to there being more mini critters to spawn, which I will admit led to me getting scared a couple times. Oh! What? Where was he? That scared me more than I've ever been scared in this game. Literally ever. Once I escaped the mini critters, I could walk my way into the playhouse prison, encountering none other than Dog Day, who gets possessed and controlled by the mini critters who eat him alive, and now we had to try and escape another chase sequence. I can't run! Go! Oh, no, no, no. Get away! Shoot! Oh, I'm gonna have to go quicker than this. Alright, get out of here! I don't remember which way I need to go. Left or right? Left or right? Alright, left. And then right? Okay. We got it. This way, this way! Whew. This slide, I guess. Okay. Go. Hopefully I can make this. Yes, okay. We're good. There we go. The playhouse was completed. And finally, all I had to conquer was the fourth area, the counselor's office. After going through the building for a bit, the first issue I faced took place in the connected cave section, where to get into the next area of the counselor's office, I had to cross this set of platforms. Now, normally this is done by just powering on the electricity to raise the platforms and jump across them that way. However, for me to pass this area, after powering on the platforms, thankfully the purple hands used for the puzzle still work if I power them up manually, so I simply just had to activate the first purple hand and launch myself with the angle trick from before to the second platform, activate the second purple hand, and doing the trick once more, I traveled the perfect distance to make it to the end jump free. Now, my next obstacle in this area took place when needing to grapple up into these vents, which at first I didn't think I could reach without jumping, so I tried to to bring an item with me to lift me up, as I always would, but for some reason, holding onto the bar and holding an item makes the game die every time. So I had to go in solo, but thankfully, for whatever reason, backing into the vent allowed me to reach it problem free. After then, completing a few more meaningless puzzles in the counselor's office to power on the final generator once and for all, I was met with another problem. I needed to access this vent here, but it was way high up. I could grab things like barrels and chairs like normal to help me, but this area, for whatever reason, is much tighter and harder to build makeshift staircases in, especially with these barrels that tended to fly all over the place at random. So while normally I try to have some technical smart sounding way of passing this, I just ended up spending a grueling 30 minutes messing with the barrels desperately until finally I got lucky enough to have them spaz out and lift me into the vent that way. From here, I can make it into the final area of the office, getting jumped by Catnap and having another dream sequence visualizing how the factory once looked before everybody disappeared, and that was the final area I needed. I hooked everything up in play care and just needed to insert the blue power cell to activate the gas production zone. But of course, I still had to deal with Catnap, who intercepts me while doing this and chased me into this elevator, bringing me into the final boss fight, where I'd have to defend myself against Nightmare Catnap and his many hallucinated clones, and put batteries into the center console as needed until it's powered on. Which, while not being a traditional chase scene, having to manage multiple grab pack hands and Catnaps coming in all directions, it was a big test to see if I could handle it all without sprinting. Okay, this might be tricky. Fake. This one's real. Okay, we have the first of, or we have the second of 4. Oh, this is the real one. Get out of here. All right, we have 3 of 4. Come on. That's fake. That's fake. Fake. All right, this one's real. Hurry. The final battery's in. Just 45 more seconds. Fake. Fake. This was real again. All right, this should be the last one we need to do. 10 more seconds. Okay, he's up here. 5 more seconds. Switch to the green hand. Come on. Let's go. I genuinely thought I wasn't going to be able to complete this. Chapter 3 was so much harder than I was anticipating. Finally, it was done. Catnap was killed by the prototype, and I could repower the gas production zone, following Poppy into this lift, lowering us into Chapter 4, and somehow, without sprinting or even jumping, successfully completing the 3rd chapter in the game. Now, I'm shocked it's even been possible up until this point, but I'm still left with the longest and biggest challenge of them all, Chapter 4. Here we are at the final chapter, Chapter 4. Now, Chapter 3 was certainly a massive challenge and was borderline impossible at times, but let's just say that Chapter 4 put me down a nearly 7-hour path to do something that the game was clearly never designed to do. So first, loading in, I went down the lift where we ended in Chapter 3 and needed to reach the prison's train station. I started first by going over to this grab pack bar guarded by a small ledge I could shake a bit and pass through. Okay, there we go. Giving me the battery and allowing me to exit the first room. I then headed through the various rooms throughout the caverns, and after moving this block and crawling into this hole, I came across a parkour section that was designed to have the player jump over it. Now, normally, if this was any other chapter, I just grab an item laying around the map and manipulate it to boost me up, but a major issue with Chapter 4 in general is that for the most part, no items can actually be picked up and moved around around the map like how they could previously. The only exception to this rule is this little block right here, which I could drag through and into the cave to try and give me a boost. Now, I attempted this for a little while, but it wasn't really working out. That is until I accidentally found something run saving. There we go! Now, it's hard to see what happened with how dark it is, but basically, for whatever reason, on this wall of the cave, you could simply just walk up it, removing the need to parkour entirely. So that part was complete, and now I was able to make it to the toy graveyard, where after fighting off a few critters, I could enter this hole, taking me to a purple hand parkour session. This would have been easy work in Chapter 3, however, this time around, the grab pack pads had been reworked, so the angle trick I had used in the past wasn't going to get me through. Thankfully though, when making the jump at the absolute last second and timing it perfectly, I could just barely reach the platform and progress on to the train station, where a completely new beast was encountered. See, in order to activate the train, we have to acquire a key, which ended up being hidden in the cell block up here. But how in the world was I supposed to make it up there without ever jumping? Well, around the area, there were more of these various blocks that I could move and try to help myself up with, but once again, I was mostly met with problems with the physics, and to be honest, after trying this for like 20 to 30 minutes, I had gotten pretty desperate and tired of trying, so I just started tossing the blocks around out of boredom, where I discovered something crazy. Whoa. How did I do that? For some reason, after pulling this block and having it bump into me, I was given a little boost in the air, which I thought I could use to get on top of the train. So, revitalized, I spent a few minutes trying to recreate this, and oh boy, were the results rewarding. What? What? That is the craziest thing to happen in this entire video so far. What? I can't mess this up. I can't mess this up. This is my only chance. Okay. Oh, we did it. We did it. We did it. What? This shouldn't be possible. I had done it, and I was able to collect the key. I then could power up the train and make my way into the prison. Now, at first, the prison seemed to be going pretty well. First, I escaped the cell I was in and went downstairs to collect the red grab pack hand, which caused this little fight scene with the nightmare critters that was honestly pretty rough without being able to sprint. Oh my gosh. Okay. Holy crap. But thankfully, the game was pretty forgiving and I could complete it on my first try. There we go.
Thank you.
I then went back upstairs to complete a puzzle that opened the upstairs door and made my way over to the prison lobby, where I was given one of the most unexpectedly difficult challenges. See, I couldn't walk over this gate, and with basically no ramps or items or props in the vicinity, it was basically impossible to boost myself up in any way without jumping. So here I was feeling pretty demotivated. Was this one little notch in the floor going to be the first thing to force me to break the challenge? Well, I got desperate. When searching up glitches for Chapter 4, I saw a couple speedrun videos where the players were able to skip through the previously mentioned critters encounter by opening the entrance door and grabbing the red hand before it can lock on them. Then they used the critters that spawned to perform a glitch that would launch them in the air and out of the map. Now, I didn't want to break the boundaries in this run or anything like that, but I thought that maybe I could use one of the critters to bounce me up and into the lobby door. Well, it was worth the try, but to ensure I could perform the glitch, I had to do something I never wanted to do, which is to revert the game all the way back to the very first version of Chapter 4, widely known as one of, if not the buggiest Poppy Playtime build of them all. But you know what? I didn't have many options left. So I restarted restarted the game on the first version and replayed everything I did previously. I even somehow recreated the box trick to get the key again and made my way back to the red hand area to perform the glitch. Now, what I wasn't expecting was for this glitch to be so hard to pull off without sprinting. I had to be absolutely perfect with grabbing the grab pack hand or else the door would close because I was so slow. And in the rare few times I actually got out, I had to complete the upstairs puzzle and drag a critter all the way over to the prison gates and hope I'd get lucky and they'd launch me in the air before the encounter ends in just a couple minutes. So for embarrassingly long, I tried this over and over again until I finally managed to get a critter over there and made quite the hilarious realization. Go. Please go. Please work. Okay. Wait. Huh? Are you kidding me? No way you could just walk over it? So for whatever reason in the first version of the game, you used to just be able to walk over the door, and therefore all of that work wasn't really needed. I just wasted my time. But you know what? Who cares? I did it. Next, I moved into this room and walked through my old coworkers to get this key card and unlock the second part of the prison. At this point, there's this intense scene where the doctor floods the room with gas, and I have to quickly grab a wheel to reel the smoke back, which is normally pretty difficult without sprinting. But when I died on my first attempt, I just spawned right next to the wheel, so I completed that with relative ease. Moving on, I did a couple more basic puzzles that brought me into the testing room that contained our good old friend Yarnaby, which led me into this mini section where we had to avoid the furry beast throughout a few rooms, something that didn't take too much effort, especially thanks to Doughy helping us out. But once I completed this area, I was met with a terrifying realization. When walking down this hallway, Yarnaby jumps me and attacks, forcing me into an intense chase scene to the end of the room. When I tried this chase, it became immediately clear that Yarnaby wasn't messing around. I wasn't even close to beating it. I tried hiding from him like Huggy. I tried using the boxes to maybe climb out of his reach. I tried shooting him with the flare hand to hopefully stun him. Guys, it didn't take long for me to make the realization. I couldn't complete this section doing this challenge or come even close. And eventually, as that truth began to consume me while playing, I realized that after hours upon hours of breaking and exploiting the game to reach this point, I would have to use my very first sprint of the game. I was really upset about this. To come so far only to fail right here genuinely kind of hurt a little bit. But regardless, I didn't stop here. There were so many other challenges to come ahead, so the least I could do is say I tried my best and move on with as little dead ends as possible. Sadly, things only got more devastating as after meeting up with Doughy and walking over towards Safe Haven, I was given another parkour scene that this time, after passing through 90% of it, the last two jumps over here, no matter what I did, put me at another dead end, forcing me to use my first two jumps as well. Now this sucked, but from here, things ended up getting a bit better. I reached the Safe Haven with no problems, and after being tasked to kill the doctor and steal his Omni Hand, which was needed to repair their generator that was failing, I made my way to his headquarters, only to be stopped by the monster that ruined my run, Yarnaby. He chased me down this path and into this mini encounter where I needed to grab a key card and escape from him. But remember when I told you guys that I had to go back to the first version of the game, which I really didn't want to do? Well, that's because since then, they've released half a dozen patches fixing various bugs and most importantly, fixing Yarnaby, whose AI in this part specifically was completely broken on launch and made playing the game basically impossible. But now I had to try it without sprinting. I went into this room to pull the lever, redirected the wiring to open this room which contained a key card, and after continuously getting caught by Yarnaby despite me being inside of a hiding spot, because if you didn't know, those basically do nothing in this version, eventually the glitches played in my favor as Yarnaby got stuck over here and I could make my way onto the conveyor belt. But oh boy, that was just an appetizer, as this conveyor belt brought me to the true Yarnaby boss fight, No Man's Land. To complete this section, first I needed to locate 3 blue hand scanners and scan them all without Yarnaby catching me, which in the older versions is extremely difficult because Yarnaby had much more of a tendency to camp me, and also, as I mentioned, half the time the hiding spots literally just don't work. Hey Yarnaby. Okay, well, don't get me. No way. This game's so broken. Oh. Now, as annoying and RNG as this was, especially since I couldn't run, after a few tries and losing a little bit of sanity, I managed to get the first one. Come on. Okay, go, go, go. The second one, I don't know where he's at. That one's done. And last but not least, the third one. He's kind of just staying there right now. Come on. Done. We got it powered on. After doing that, I can make my way over to this section and lower this wall, where I needed to collect this lever that could be used to open this door. Then I could walk into this little room containing a key card, which after sliding into this console, let me power on the final door that contained a lever, which upon pulling allowed me to successfully complete the area and move on to the final Yarnaby chase scene, which unfortunately worked pretty much the exact same as the first one, and I was also forced to run through it, making that 2. But thankfully, that was it for Yarnaby. I met back up with Doughy for a little bit, and then finally, I made it to the doctor's headquarters. The first obstacle of this area was towards the start, where I needed to parkour on some blocks. You know, the voice actor for the doctor said he's seen my videos, so shout out to you. Now, I could have done the launch trick again from earlier, but it was very difficult and I didn't have much space to do it, so I rather just leaned up against a rock on the wall to get on one of the small blocks, then turned one of the bigger blocks to give it a slope so I could walk on it, and then I could slowly slide the block all the way to the area I needed to climb to complete it. I then went through a few simple puzzles with the doctor that didn't involve any sprinting, and went through the secondary laboratory where I had to find all of the experiments among the red gas with limited oxygen, which was a bit more difficult without being able to run, but was mostly smooth sailing otherwise. I had another small parkour section in my way here where I could do the exact same block trick to climb up. Then I had my next boss fight with Baba Chops, who chased me down, shooting this mysterious green liquid at me as I attempted to collect the various batteries to power on the exits. Now, the trick to this area was to essentially always keep moving around corners and also get super lucky. Baba Chops is so unpredictable and sometimes was nowhere to be seen, while other times was constantly all over me. So this was a super annoying section. I basically just had to walk around the map grabbing every battery over and over again until I managed to survive by chance. But believe it or not, it was actually possible to complete. I was eventually able to power on this room and grab this key card, which could be used to open up the exit room where Harley traps me in and gives me the option to either kill the innocent Simon Smoke or find a hidden escape in the room. But you know what? I was tired of seeing these critters on my screen, so I did the honors and then made it to the final Doctor boss fight, where essentially I needed to collect various batteries around the map while his minions chase me down. Now, fortunately, the minions are usually pretty slow and are scripted to activate as you run past, so they are rarely a huge problem, and I was able to complete the first 2 rooms easily. However, there is one part of this battle that becomes a huge challenge. After powering on the 3rd room, I entered this long hallway containing the final battery. However, when trying to escape the area, no matter which side I went, one of the doctor's minions would spawn in my path and fly down the hall, usually catching me. Now, honestly, I thought this would end up being impossible. However, by some miracle, if I managed to grab the battery and slowly inch towards the exit, if it's timed absolutely perfectly, I could immediately walk the other direction with just enough time to reach the end without dying. Come on. Come on. Come on. Oh, I did it! I did it! Oh, I did it! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh. Okay, I did not think that was gonna end up being possible. Next, I collected the Omni chip from Harley Sawyer, marking his death and completion. I acquired the Omni hand, then went back to the safe haven, bringing me to another killing blow. Being that in order to return to the safe haven, I had to enter this event, which requires a couple of jumps. Now, I tried to find something in this room to exploit this, and I thought I found something here where I could jump up on this rail, walk across these shelves, and fall onto the boxes here. But unfortunately, after dozens of tries, nothing really ended up working, and I was forced to jump 2 more times to reach the vent. After making it to safe haven and replacing the generator, I was on my way to the foundation, where I needed to collect dynamite and place it around the area to hopefully blow up the factory. There was another small obstacle here where I needed to reach this room up here, and you're supposed to do this by using a purple hand pad in the caves and doing a little bit of parkour to reach it that way. However, for me, I could do it by moving this big block here to plug the hole in the stairs and simply walk up to it that way. After finally doing this, Doughy confronts me on my way out, and I find out that the evil prototype had actually stolen the explosives and blew into Safe Haven. When returning, I saw that every resident of Safe Haven was now killed, which caused Doughy to turn into a demonic salamander and chase me down. Now, once again, unfortunately, his chase scene is just totally unbeatable without sprinting. It's actually really hard to beat even while sprinting, so that would mark our 3rd time having to do that. But it would also be the final, as that then brings me to the final boss fight of the entire game, where Doughy attacks me in his enraged state, and I have to drag liquid nitrogen canisters on his head to freeze him under the saws 3 separate times. Now, this part of the game was just absolutely ridiculous. Thankfully, before Doughy can kill me, he had to drag me into his mouth, which I can defend by hitting whichever of his heads are shaking, but often it's hard to tell which one to shoot at, and sometimes he will grab me like 2 inches away from his head. So again, I kind of had to get a little bit lucky and hope he didn't grab me so close that I couldn't defend myself. Plus, Doughy also has a couple of alternate attacks between the regular fight. One where he drops down these little spikes that are mostly harmless as long as I kept moving or was under some kind of structure. And then a second one where various hands come out of the ground and smack me, which without being able to run was basically a death sentence every time. And when I wasn't worried about RNG determining if I lived, the battle also was extremely slow, as only being able to walk led to me getting grabbed by him every couple seconds, and the nitrogen canisters were so buggy they'd break randomly or not attach properly, which was so frustrating. But somehow, after many deaths, I was able to saw him once, saw him twice. Okay, that's 2. And was able to finish the job once and for all. Come on, this is it. This is it. Come on. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Oh my gosh. That was so infuriating. This was it. I headed over to the exit, causing him to attack one more time, but simply crushing him finished the job, and I could head over to the vent with Poppy and Kissy. The prototype then used our explosives to blow up the area, dropping me into the final location in the entire game, the labs, where I could then head over to the entrance, power up the door, and walk in. The final room of Poppy Playtime. I watched the final cutscene, concluding with the return of Huggy Wuggy as the screen cuts to black, officially marking the end of the game. And so that officially answers the question: can you beat Poppy Playtime without sprinting or jumping? Well, for chapters 1, 2, and 3, actually yes. But as for chapter 4, while you mostly can, the game did unfortunately force me to sprint 3 times, during both of the Yarnaby chases and the Doughy one, along with having to jump 4 times, twice during the parkour outside of Safe Haven, and 2 more times to get into the Safe Haven vent. But outside of those small mini areas, even though it wasn't perfect, it turns out the game can be manipulated in a ton of unique ways to do something that I don't think anybody thought was possible. And who knows, maybe someday people much smarter than me could figure out a way to pass these sections with exploits I didn't ever think about. I don't know, but if you guys enjoyed, please make sure to subscribe. I've never done a video like this before. Hopefully it came out okay. But if you want more like it, let me know.